I want to start with a confession.
I don't really follow soccer. I don't know most of the players' names, and I couldn't explain the offside rule under pressure. I've never once watched a league match by choice on a regular weeknight. But sit me down in front of a World Cup game, any teams, and something happens to me that I can't fully explain. I start caring about the outcome, and when a goal goes in, even for a team I had no opinion about 40 minutes ago, something in my chest does a thing that I would have to call excitement. For a long time, I felt a bit guilty about only watching during the World Cup, or found this a bit embarrassing, like I was being tricked by something I hadn't consented to, like my nervous system had been hijacked by a sport I didn't even follow. So I got myself asking, is this worth my emotional investment? And I did find the answer to that though, and I'll explain. The World Cup is not necessarily a deep experience. It's not a spiritual practice. It won't answer any of the important questions. But it will do something that's rarer than it sounds in ordinary life. It will let you be genuinely surprised by your own emotional response. And it turns out there's an actual scientific explanation for that, and it's one of the most interesting things your brain does. Let's start with the goal itself. In most sports, points happen constantly. Basketball, tennis, American football, there's always something to react to, always a score changing, always a next opportunity coming in seconds. Therefore, the emotional stakes are distributed across hundreds of small moments. But soccer doesn't work that way. A match lasts 90 minutes, sometimes more. And across all of that time, all that running, positioning, near misses, deflections, the average number of goals scored by both teams combined is usually somewhere between 2 and 3. 2 or 3 moments of resolution across 90 minutes of open question. It turns out your brain is exquisitely built for exactly this structure. Neuroscientists have known for decades that dopamine, the chemical most associated with reward and pleasure, doesn't spike when good things happen. It spikes in anticipation of whether something good might happen. The uncertainty itself is the trigger, the not knowing, the maybe. So during the match, while nothing is being resolved, your brain is quietly building pressure. Dopamine loading in response to sustained possibility. Cortisol rising from the tension and adrenaline from the stakes. The goal itself doesn't create the emotion. It releases it all at once, everything that had been accumulated until that moment. The tension, the anxiety, the anticipation dissipates when the ball hits the net. This is why a single goal in a soccer match can feel disproportionately enormous. It isn't disproportionate. It's proportional to everything that came before it, every minute of held breath you didn't realize you were holding. And here's what I find remarkable about this. You don't need to care about the teams to feel it. Because your brain isn't responding to the sport, it's responding to the structure of anticipation. And that structure is ancient, far older than soccer or any game humans have invented. It's the same circuitry that kept our ancestors alert during a hunt, scanning the horizon for whether something was going to happen or not. So imagine beyond this natural and intrinsic reaction. What happens when a goal goes in and a stadium of 60,000 people erupts simultaneously? What is that exactly? The sociologist Emile Durkheim described something he called collective effervescence, a state that emerges when large groups of people direct their attention and emotion toward the same thing at the same moment. He was writing about religious ceremonies in the early 1900s, but the phenomenon he described happens everywhere that humans gather with synchronized feeling. When it works, the boundaries between individual and group temporarily dissolve. People report feeling in those moments more alive than usual, more present, more connected to something larger than their private experience. This isn't a metaphor. Neuroscientists studying crowd behavior have documented that when thousands of people undergo the same emotional spike simultaneously, the mirror neuron systems in each individual brain begin to synchronize. You're not just observing the happiness around you, you're actually absorbing it. Because your nervous system is literally running a partial version of what the person next to you is feeling, so you didn't choose to feel it. It's like you were built for it. This is also why you can become genuinely moved watching a crowd react to a goal even when you're watching alone on a screen. The mirror neuron response doesn't require physical proximity. It requires enough emotional signal from other human faces and bodies to activate. So if you really observe people cheering and celebrating, it provides more than enough signal. Now here's the part I find most interesting about the World Cup specifically. During a regular club season, the best players in the world represent soccer clubs and brands, contracts, commercial interests, and there's nothing wrong with that, it's just how professional sport works. But for a few weeks every 4 years, those same players put on a different jersey. Not one they negotiated, but one that represents where they were born, the country that shaped them, a history they carry in ways that can't be bought or traded. And we feel that difference, even those of us who follow none of it besides a World Cup. Because your brain loves narrative, it doesn't experience the world as data, it experiences it as story. And the World Cup as a global event makes us turn entire countries into characters. We assign them personalities and generalizations. Argentina is passionate and unpredictable. Japan is polite and disciplined. The Cape Verde team is surprising and courageous. Why did it matter to people who had never been there, didn't know the players, and had no stake in the outcome? Because of the underdog. There's a well-documented psychological phenomenon called the underdog bias, our universal human tendency to emotionally favor the side with less power, less probability, less apparent reason for hope. Every culture has a version of this story. David and Goliath, the scrappy kid who makes it anyway, the team no one expected against the opponent no one thought they could touch. And the research on why we respond this way is fascinating, because it turns out we're not really responding to the teams at all. We're responding to a feeling we recognize from our own lives. Almost everyone carries the quiet sense of being smaller than the situation they're facing, the feeling of being underestimated or overlooked or simply outmatched by circumstances. When a small nation holds its breath and a goalkeeper, from a country most people couldn't have found on a map 2 weeks ago, makes a save against a team worth hundreds of millions, something happens in the people watching that has nothing to do with soccer. We're not watching a match, we're watching a possibility. The possibility that the improbable outcome is not, in fact, impossible. That smaller doesn't mean lesser, that the scoreboard doesn't always reflect what's true about the teams or about us. When the underdog scores, we don't just cheer for them, we are cheering for ourselves. I want to say something directly now. Some people, and maybe you're one of them, approaches experiences like a World Cup with a subtle form of suspicion. Not hostility, but a sincere question. Is this deep enough, significant enough, intellectually justifiable enough to deserve genuine feeling? We live in a time that there's a pressure to perform. That rewards having good reasons for everything. Productive reasons, improving reasons, and a lot of us have gotten so good at asking for those reasons that we've started applying that requirement to experiences that were never meant to pass that test. A goal scored by people you've never met, in a sport you don't follow, in a tournament that won't change anything in your life. This will not pass an intellectual justification test. It was never supposed to. But here's what it will do if you let it. It will make you feel something real in your body, being present and in the presence of other people who will share this moment. It will activate parts in your nervous system that evolved over thousands of years specifically to create this feeling. The feeling of being part of something, of mattering to a group, of your outcome being connected to someone else's. It will let you briefly be in a room where the person next to you, whose name you don't know, whose opinions you haven't vetted, whose life is completely separate from yours, but they are feeling exactly what you're feeling at exactly the same moment. And it will ask nothing of you in return. No self-improvement, no productivity, no insight to extract and apply later. Just be here and feel this and let it be enough. Maybe the thing we've actually forgotten isn't how to feel, but how to feel things that don't justify themselves first. The World Cup is not necessarily a deep experience, but if you allow it, it can do something that's rarer than it seems in ordinary life. It can let you be genuinely surprised by your own emotional response. It will let you discover in real time that you care about something you didn't know you cared about, a team from a country you barely knew existed, a goalkeeper making a save in the 87th minute, a stadium full of strangers losing their minds over something that, from a sufficient distance, is just a ball crossing a line. And in that moment, you don't need to be a soccer fan, you can just open yourself to experience deeply human feelings and to feel alive. A World Cup can be one of the opportunities life gives us to belong to something, even for a moment. Because at the end of the day, most of life is remembered for the moments we allowed ourselves to fully experience.
If this reflection resonated with you, like and subscribe to The Arise. New reflections await.